for joining. You're very welcome to this online open day, open session about our MA in journalism. My name is Dr. Niamh Kirk. I'm the new course director for the MA, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have in just a few minutes. So today we're going to start off with a very brief introduction and just an overview of the course. And then we're going to speak to some of our alumni, and after that we'll open the session to some questions and answers, and you can ask any of us on the panel anything that you want to about the course, and we'll be happy to answer any of your questions as best we can, and of course get back to you if we need to. So just to start off and explain how the MA is constructed, we have MA has a MA in journalism, which is the news pathway, and then we have a separate pathway where you can actually take and use an MA in journalism via a sports pathway as well. So two slightly different approaches to the MA. Just to explain the team that we have here, so we have a super team of both kind of professionals and academics in journalism. And particularly also in sports journalism as well. We have Colin Kinsella, we've got Joe Callahan, and we've got a new member of staff who's going to be joining us to take over some of the sports and advance some of the sports modules at both undergraduate and postgraduate level. And then, of course, I'm here. My name is Dr. Niamh Kirk. I'm the module coordinator for several of the MA modules and the course director overall. I tend to specialise in digital journalism and data journalism, which has overlap in both of the pathways, both news and in sports pathway as well. So just to give a very kind of overview, I'm sure some of you have seen some of this on our course materials, but just to explain the kind of content that we have on the course, we have four different approaches, I guess, or four different strands that you might think of as part of the overall MA. So the first one, we look at sort of trade or professional issues. This includes things like media law and ethics, and understanding the professional and trade guidelines that must be adhered to. We also have a writing strand, so we do call it writing, but it does tend to cover, large-scale research as well. So everything from writing short news reports the whole way up to in-depth, large-scale investigative. We also have a multimedia strand as well. So as well as learning to write news reports, we also have radio journalism, broadcast journalism, mobile journalism, podcasting, and various different types of online publication. And then as part of the academic strand for the MA, we work with critical media literacy, and we do introductions both at sports and news pathway to the key and critical issues in the news media sector. And we do this with a view to helping journalists better participate in the wider news media industry. Our semester is broken up into three sections. We have the first autumn semester. This looks primarily at building up and introducing skills. A lot of this course is designed to help people who do not come from a communications or journalism background to pivot into a new career or to extend or expand on the work that they've done so far. So our first semester looks very much at introducing core skills and introducing key parts of the trade and the profession. So learning about the different tools and equipment that you use for broadcast, developing report writing skills, and then understanding media law and ethics. In the spring semester, you move on to more advanced work. So we start to build the skill set throughout the second semester. So you would do advanced sports writing, feature writing, more in-depth interviewing, investigative work as well. And at this point, we introduce some more of our academic preparation for what would be the MA dissertation. The MA dissertation will start in the third trimester, usually around April or May, and at that stage you'd have a supervisor, And the summer semester, you work largely independently and with your supervisor in order to produce that MA document. Just to give you a sense of how we organise things on a weekly basis, because I know that some of you who've been inquiring are working full-time and working part-time. So this is how we actually organise our schedule in general. On Mondays and Tuesdays, we tend to have all of our taught modules. So this is where you'd have in-class taught work, and that tends to run from about 9 o'clock till 6 o'clock. Obviously, there's breaks in between. It's not a full run through on the day, but we do take Mondays and Tuesdays for our thought modules. These are often hybrid, so they're streamed from our newsroom. I'll explain some of our facilities, but we do have an interactive, engaged newsroom that facilitates hybrid work. Then for Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays, particularly on Wednesday, there is independent work. So we do encourage people, because practice makes perfect. We do try to encourage people to keep working and writing and developing their skills regularly. So Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays are used for independent work, your writing days. These are also days where you get studio access, both TV, radio, and the newsroom. And also this gives you time and space to do any of the field work that you might need to go and do some out of the office, traveling around and things like that. So that is how we have constructed the weekly schedule. Obviously, we are all available to work with you Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays if you need to. As well as the daily schedule, we also have regular news days as part of the course. And this is where some of our advanced students will take over the newsroom for a day, and essentially we run a newsroom in our newsroom. This is the Limerick Voice, which is the newspaper that's produced by the overall students in the department. It has a whole range of types of reports and news articles. It is multimedia, and in this way you are always publishing, and we do start the news days in the first semester. So in terms of developing your portfolio, that starts very early on. And in terms of working with editorial editors and starting to get published and get your work out there, again, that starts from about the first semester. And again, it develops and evolves and builds into more complex work throughout the second semester. Just to note some of the facilities that we have, we do have our broadcast studio. And if you'd like to go down and view any of the facilities, we can arrange this for you. We have a broadcast studio. We have a separate radio studio. We have our own newsroom, which is entirely dedicated to the journalism course. And that is kitted out with the best of materials. We have a full Mac lab in there. We're also going to be introducing some data journalism work, and we'll be opening up a data journalism studio or a sort of data journalism playroom, if you will, in hopefully the next year as well. So they are our key kind of aspects to what we do. There are, just to note, two potential outcomes that I'm sure you have seen. That you can exit, if you'd like, in May with a postgraduate diploma in journalism, but there's also that option to progress on and to complete the dissertation and get the master's overall. And that's something that we're happy to work with you on when it gets closer to the time to making the decision, and support and guide you in the best route for you. So that is just a very brief overview of the course in itself. I would like, we have some of our previous alumni, some of our previous students from the course here with us today. And thank you very much for joining us. And they're going to take a minute or two to essentially give us some insights into their own experience while doing the MA. So I'm going to pass over, open up the panel discussion to our three previous three alumni who are now working in the news media. So we've got Reem Hassany. She's a presenter with RTE News Today. we've got Andrew Phayer. He's a digital content and live production lead with Munster Rugby. And Cathal Ryan, he's a news reporter with the Irish Mirror. Thank you very much, guys, for joining us.
Absolutely.
No problem. Thanks for having us.
It is very much appreciated for you taking your time. I know that you are very busy at the moment. So I wanted to start off. So just for anyone who's attending, please do ask any questions. Feel free to use the raise hand function or the chat function if you'd like to submit any questions for us, and we'll be happy to answer them. But just to get us kicked off, I'm going to start off and turn to you, if that's okay, Reem, over in RTE. Would you mind just giving us a brief introduction about yourself and where you are now, and maybe even what inspired you to actually take on with the MA in the first place?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Reem. I actually come from a very different background. I come from a pharmacy background, so I did my undergrad in pharmacy. I was working as a pharmacist for a couple of years before I did the masters and ended up where I am now. So it was very different. But I feel like it was something that I kind of always wanted to do, was kind of always there in the back of my mind. So I just decided why not. And I was lucky because like I'm from Limerick myself, so I was looking into journalism courses available in Ireland and like where I wanted to go and everything like that. So it worked out really, really well that I was able to stay at home and I was able to do the masters as well, which was really handy. I was really upset though that it was a COVID year, so everything was online. I really did want to be on campus, but it was still delivered very well, and I was very lucky that it was a course that was well suited to being taught online and you can still get the same benefits from it.
And how, just as a matter of interest, how did you find that transition from something like pharmacy, very hard sciences, coming into a communication space?
I feel like, do you know what? A lot of people ask this, but I actually feel like as a pharmacist, you're the main point of contact between like the patient and the doctor. When the patient gets a prescription, medication that the doctor probably didn't explain or something like that, you're constantly not working as a journalist, but you're working in delivering information, simplifying it so that the patient understands, and you're constantly in contact with them in that way. So I feel like in that sense, it is quite similar in the sense that you're always talking to people, you're always explaining something to someone to help them understand it more. So in a very different kind of way, it is similar. Obviously now I work with kids, so it's similar in the sense that I have to explain something and simplify it and make it so that kids can understand and things like that. But yeah, I feel like there was always like delivering information from one source to the next, talking to people, hearing their stories. Like the patients come in with all sorts of stories. It's not just about their medication. They'll tell you everything that's happening on every end of the county. So you really are in the know as a pharmacist.
There's a natural flow there that I maybe wouldn't have expected. Absolutely. Andrew, would you mind introducing yourself as well, and what is it that you took the sports pathway, from what I understand? So what attracted you into the course, and where did you come from?
So can you all hear me?
Yep.
Yep. So I did audio and video production as my undergraduate, which was a very technical course, I suppose, but what drew me towards the masters was, I suppose, I had the technical knowledge, but I suppose the storytelling element of what I was doing maybe needed a bit more work. And I suppose that was the main reason I went in. Another thing is a lot of my work is predominantly online, and you have to really be able to write around video. You have to be able to get people to click on your video and watch it. So that was another aspect that I kind of wanted to up my game in, to make sure that your content is being seen, because you could have great content, but unless you're packaging it and selling it the right way, not many people will see it. So they were the two main reasons why I chose to do the masters.
Awesome, thank you. And then sports journalism as a career. When you graduated, what were your early steps like, I guess?
Yeah, it's different. I suppose that's one of the draws to it, I suppose. Yeah, like a lot of my work would revolve around Access Munster at the moment. So that's a behind the scenes kind of platform that Munster Rugby have launched earlier this season. Getting into it can be difficult, but I suppose one piece of advice that I would give is get involved. There's loads of stories out there that that aren't being told, and if you can get out and find a market, find a niche, and tell the story, a lot of the time the opportunity will come to you. And that's kind of what happened with me, that I saw a couple of stories. I approached my now boss, Fiona Murphy, who's the head of communications, with a couple of video stories that I wanted to do. And then I graduated in May, and I was working with Munster Rugby then in September. So by putting yourself out there and doing these stories, things can come to you.
Yeah, and I also think it's such a great example of the range and diversity of journalism and where it's actually happening. It's not always the kind of old vision of the traditional national newsrooms. There's a much wider and diverse media ecosystem now to branch into. It's super to see it. Cathal, you're at the Mirror. You completed your undergraduate in University of Limerick, and then you progressed into the Masters. Could you maybe let people know what that journey was like?
Yeah, of course. You can hear me loud and clear, can you?
Perfect, thank you.
Brilliant, cool. So yeah, I did my undergrad in, much like the rest of the panel, I didn't do my undergrad in journalism. I did new media and English. I did it in UL as well. So I started that in 2014. And with the undergrad, I think I went into it with just a, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was interested in lots of different things. Music was the goal. I stepped into the undergrad in UL and I was heavily involved in music. So I'd write quite a lot about gigs that were going on. I was writing for blogs and things like that. And coming up to the end of my undergrad, I started to think about, okay, what am I going to do as a career? What's next on the cards? And I realized that, okay, these blogs I'm submitting to this thing I'm doing is actually feasible as a career. And I looked into the MA and checked it out. I contacted Virgil, and he spoke to me, and it was brilliant. I started then. I reached out to the Limerick Post in between as well, in between my undergrad and masters, and explained to them what the story was. I didn't, because I think it was interesting stepping into the MA, although I had a small bit of writing background and I had a small bit of experience writing for blogs and things like that, I didn't have any hard journalism experience. So the Limerick Post were happy to oblige to give me some shadowing because I was starting with the MA, because I was continuing my journey in Limerick in UL. So like for me, I couldn't imagine my career of going the direction it's gone had I not gone from my undergrad to the MA in Limerick. I mean, the course and the extracurricular activities alone isn't everything, but the university itself and the supports that were available and making the contacts and honing the skills that I had for my undergrad, it was immense in getting me where I am today.
Oh, that's super. It is also a very beautiful campus as well. It's a stunning, one of the nicer, I think, on the island. Reem, your current work in RTE and Youth Today, can you tell us a little bit about that, and also a little bit about how it came about?
Yeah, no, of course. It actually came about through doing the Masters. I remember when we were doing the Masters, like, I don't know, within the first 6 months or so, they posted, like, we had a Facebook group page and they posted that there was this job. And I think I applied in March and I didn't hear back from RTE until June. So I thought it was like, no, but no, luckily it all worked out. So it was actually through the Masters that I heard about it. And I believe that they only advertise within journalism courses in universities. They wouldn't really advertise the post anywhere else. So it was really handy to be doing the Masters at the time that they were hiring. So it was really great that way. And day to day now, it's really, really good. It is very much the opportunity to really work on the skills that I suppose I did learn during the Masters, because I feel like had I not done them, I probably wouldn't have really known what to kind of do. But yeah, no, the day to day is probably like working on a story in the morning, going out to a school or a class, or like interacting with a child with like a story to share and stuff like that. Filming that for about an hour or two, coming back and editing it, and then that piece will air on the show that day. So it's a really fast turnaround. And then if I'm not doing that, I'd be on the other side where I'll be presenting the show for the day. So you'd be working on all the other elements of the show, and your co-host would be working on the segment that's out and about from that day, kind of thing. So it's very busy, very fast turnaround, very intense. Like the time flies like this. Like in pharmacy, I was looking at the watch waiting for my time to like go. I'm like, when's it gonna be time? Literally now I'm like, oh my God, I have so many emails, I have so many calls, and the time is gone. It's insane.
That it's quite rewarding though to work so directly with your audiences and young people, and to be able to kind of have that interaction with people and watch them grow from your own work.
It's so nice. Oh, it's so nice to go out to the schools just to like see how much they enjoy the show, how much they love it, how much they engage with the show. Like they'll email in questions of the week. They'll even email in like, come to our school and do this and do that. Like it's really nice to see that they really do watch it and really do get involved. It's so nice.
Oh, that's super. Thank you. And Andrew as well, what might a typical day for you be like? If there are typical days in Munster Rugby.
There probably aren't typical days, and similar to Reem, it's the turnaround time. It's very fast. Sport moves very quickly because you could do a post-match interview on a Saturday night and it's almost obsolete by Monday. So you have to get it turned around and up online as quickly as you can. I suppose a typical day, if like we would do all of our media days on a Tuesday, so I'll just kind of pick one day. So we come in and we'd have a discussion with the coaches and the players about who's going to go up for media. We come in and set up backdrops. Unfortunately, we're still in on a distance press conferences at the moment, but we are starting to get them back in person, which is great because I suppose that's one thing. Being in person is so important to building relationships with the media and journalists with players. So we shoot that, we turn that around fairly fast, and we get that out. And then we could be on any given day we could be shooting different bits of content. Like yesterday, I was shooting with master chefs who are do all the food in the building for a commercial video. So it's not just all about rugby. There are different strands that we have to go down and create commercial content as well. So as I said, it's very different. Access Munster then is our behind the scenes that we're constantly capturing every day, and then we have game days and across the world. So I'm going to Durban in 4 weeks' time. And I'm going to Cork on Friday for a game next week. So yeah, there's a bit of travel involved as well, which is always great.
Super. Yeah, it sounds really, it sounds extremely active and must be very fun to work directly with the players.
Yeah, the players are great. They're in fairness to them, they give up so much of themselves to the media. And I suppose as journalists, you kind of have to appreciate that a player might have a bad day in his own personal life and they still have to go out and perform. So I'm always in awe of how much of themselves that the players give to the cause of Munster Rugby, I suppose.
Yeah, it is, but it's great to the community or the culture sounds really nice, fun, rewarding.
It is,
Cathal,
yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Cathal, just to ask you, I think you did a bit of freelancing before you were in the Mirror and different types of articles. What was that like? What kind of what was it your experience like that, and how did you build that into we'll say your career in the Mirror?
So yeah, I'd contribute. I did a lot of print stuff before I went into writing for online. So I began again within the MA. The lecturers work with you so well, and they work so closely with you, and projects that you do within the course, they'll show you how to submit them and how to write pitches and how to get them across. So starting locally, obviously I'm from Limerick. I was did my undergrad in UL doing the MA, and in UL it was all based around Limerick. So I was submitting a lot of stuff to the Post and to the Limerick Leader and getting published in print there. And then stepping out from that, I think it was around 2 months after I finished the MA, I started working with a site called buzz.ie. And there's interesting, they're owned by a company, Reach PLC. They own the Mirror and the Star, various publications like that. And once I was in with them, it was just a working up the ladder sort of thing. So I'd write news for them on a daily basis for Buzz. So you'd write just quick short news reports. And then while in them, I started to get a bit more confidence, and I'd write off to the editors within the Star and ask them, could I submit features to them perhaps. I began to write music features for the Daily Star then, and as a result of that, I was brought on with the Mirror to do more features with them, or to write news. And it's great because they've really given me an opportunity there to step past just writing copy and submitting copy. So we do things there, I thought it was great you mentioned about data journalism earlier. So it's so important at the moment. So with writing for online, doing things like learning how to utilize the tools that are available. So learning how to use like the Google Journalist Studios, so you can active reports, that you're not just writing copy for an online article. You know, people kind of scan through them nowadays. So it was all about how do you find the best way to tell a story? How do you find the modern way to tell a story? So to answer your question, I began writing for print. There's a lot of skills you learn from writing for print. You learn how to write, you learn how to write persuasively, you learn how to tell a profile if you're interviewing someone. But shifting more towards online, it's about finding different ways to tell the story. How can you, especially with social media as well, in the advent of social media, how can you, perhaps your story doesn't warrant a 500-word article, perhaps it's a few graphics you can make that can be put out across Instagram or something like that. What's the best way to engage with your audience? So yes, I started writing for print and learned so many skills writing for print, but with the Mirror now, we're gearing towards how do you tell a story in more digital way.
Thank you, Cathal, and I'm glad for your support on the data journalism aspects of things, which is very much my speciality. But there's obviously, to clarify, nothing to fear around data journalism. It is not as maths heavy as people might think it can be. So very finally, before we start opening things up to questions, the Masters is challenging, but there's very few rewards without challenge. And I'm just wondering if you could maybe let people know what you think they should think about if they're considering coming in to the postgraduate, or if they're signed up and they're coming in already, how might they prepare? So we'll start with Reem, maybe if you can, if you would start off.
I feel like it was definitely an adjustment, and it was definitely challenging. I know around Christmas time I was finding it very difficult. I suppose being out of education for so long and kind of coming back into education, I was really struggling, and I was really tempted to take the part-time offer for the second semester because I felt really overwhelmed by the sheer amount of workload, I suppose. And I was also still working as a pharmacist part-time while I was doing that. So it was a lot. So I feel like I didn't do that, but I feel like time management is a huge thing, because I feel like, yeah, you see it on your schedule where it's like, oh, 2 days of classes or whatever it is per week it was, but there's so much more work outside of those 2 days that kind of needs to be done. And it is a lot more like, you know, pharmacy was more like study and like learn your material. This is more like going out, getting stories, contacting. Like it's a different kind of workload, and it is like only stuff that you could probably do within, like, do you know, the 9 to 5, 9 to 6 workday, contacting people, interviewing them, getting stories, going from one end to the other to talk to people and stuff. So I think time management is huge in terms of that one, and just trying to factor that in. And also, like, I was really tempted by the part-time offer, and I think it is good to know that that option is available for people who want to do it, to just, it's the same work that you're going to do, you're just going to have a bit more time to factor in like job, lifestyle, all that kind of stuff. It just gives you a bit more freedom. I feel like I didn't have that in the first semester, but when I kind of got a grasp on time management in the second semester, it did become a lot easier.
Thank you. Yes, Andrew, would you mind as well? What would you ask, particularly from the sports angle, to think about or prepare?
So I actually did it part-time. So I did it over 2 years. For that reason, I was working full-time. So Reem is 100% right. Time management is essential. You have to plan out your weeks and stick to it. There's a lot of tools online. I use Momento. It's a Chrome extension, and I make lists and set deadlines for yourself. And if there's something that you can do today, do not put it off until tomorrow, because, as Reem alluded to, when you get hit to December and you hit to May, it's very, very difficult if you're not organized, and you can unduly stress yourself out. So time management is essential. And then the other one is contacts. For sport, it's all about contacts. It's about reaching out to people and making those relationships and talking. You have to maintain those relationships and constantly reach out to people, and you'll have a fantastic career in sports.
Thanks. And Cathal, what about yourself? If there was, from your own experiences, what should people really think about?
Well, I won't harp on again about time management. I think we stress the importance. But for me, on top of that, to throw yourself into it as best you can. I know you get out of something what you put in, and like the university, it's such a beautiful campus there. There's such amazing supports there, and you're starting into this MA. To put yourself into the college life as much as you can. There's so many great societies there. There's so many, they said, so much great supports and stuff, and you get the stories out of that. You go around the campus, you meet people, and you'll see it in, if you follow the Limerick Voice publication, they do great stories, especially their social media. I think is fantastic, where they go around the campus and they talk to people, they do vox pops and things like that. And I think by throwing yourself, immersing yourself as much as you can into the university life in that regard, you really get a lot out of it in yourself as well as for your career when you graduate. So yeah, for me, I would say time management and yeah, throwing your all into the course in the university.
Thank you.